Models tend to be far more visually attractive with images as opposed to just circles with text in them. Now, an, an additional neat feature about Insight Maker was developed as a web-based environment to promote the development and sharing of insights amongst people as easily as possible, so that any if someone sends you a URL, you can look at the insight that they've created. And if it's a simulation, you can run the simulation. Though if you think that there are things that you could do to enhance it, there are a couple of options. You could go ahead and contact the owner and ask if they would give you access to actually modify their model, which in some cases might be appropriate, in some cases not. More often than not, you'd really like a copy of the model so that you can make the enhancements to it that you would like to make to it to share it back with the owner or with other people. The nice thing about Insight Maker is that any model that you can see, you can come up here and tell it to, where is it? It's here someplace. Oh, it's right here. Clone Insight. Clone does exactly what it says. It makes a copy of whatever model you're looking at that belongs to you, as opposed to, so now that it belongs to you, you can do anything that you want to it. So we're going to edit the description of this one, and we're going to call it images for impact, because that's what this lecture is. Adding images to a model, and we're going to go ahead and change this and call it images for. So I now have, so the original model is still sitting here just as it was, and from it I have cloned a new one called images for impact, which has a new insight number, and now this one is mine and I can do with it as I choose, and there is a link to this in the external resources segment for this lecture, so that you could access and you could make a clone of this so that you could make changes to it. But back to what this particular segment is supposed to be about. Any primitive in Insight Maker, that means not flows and links, but any of the elements used to develop models with, you can attach a picture to it. The way that you do that, let me go ahead and first tell this that I want to go ahead and move the text to the bottom so that it's not, so I don't overrun it. I'm going to go to I'm using Chrome, and I'm going to say INTERE, interest rate. And then I'm going to tell it that I want to see images, and there are tons of them. So I pick one that looks appealing. Of course, this one is what? This one is, oh, this one is huge. It's better to pick some, here's one that's 375 by 320. And then I tell it that I want to view the image, and you want to be sure that the URLs point to well-defined images as opposed to cached things that aren't actually real. So you want a GIF or JPEG or something, so that you can now go ahead and copy this URL, go back here, select this, and go to Primitives, Picture, Custom Image, put in that URL, and you now have a percentage rate where you used to have a bubble. And you can do this with any of the primitives in Insight Maker. So let me go ahead and say gap. No, that's not the gap that I want. Clip art gap. Oh, let's see. Here's a gap. So let me select this, view this image. So see this one This one downloaded it. Oh, I should have looked, because see, this is an ugly URL for it's not quite so real. Let me check this one. View the image. Oh, this one's good. Let me select this and then go back here, and on this gap, first I got to go ahead and move the text to the bottom, and then go ahead and tell it that the primitive picture is a custom image, and I now have a gap. It probably would be a gap different if it reflected water or something. The comments that were there are still there. All I've done is overlay an image, and you can resize these as you desire. And this way it begins to give just a better sense of looking at the model, as opposed to just looking at text and lines. Water. Let's see, water. You want to find an image that's not too big. Well, let me say water level. Sometimes you have to do several searches to get a sense of, oh, water level. Why don't I just look for bathtub? I find that I don't know, that sometimes I'm thinking about a particular image in a certain way, and then it turns out that I really need to use a different terminology to come up with something that's meaningful. So let me go ahead and change this one to align bottom. Now, if I knew I was going to add images to this, I would have left all the text on the bottom to begin with, but it was in the other model, so it's just, some more of that trial and learning stuff that I talk about all the time. So here's the bathtub. And you probably have to go ahead and readjust the curvatures when you resize the images. So that's the part about doing the images for the individual elements, and I'll let you go ahead and copy this or make a clone of this and spend time making changes to it to go ahead and finish filling it out. Now, for the loop indicators, there are you can do this on multiple pieces at the same time. So you can select one, hold the control key, and select another one, so that you can restyle multiple primitives all at the same time, as opposed to having to do it one after another. And there are built-in images for a number of things, and all of the loop indicators are built in. So this is a clockwise reinforcing indicator, and this is counterclockwise, clockwise balancing, counterclockwise, and these two are for when you aren't quite certain what the loop is actually doing at the moment, and you need to figure it out sooner or later. So this one is appropriate for here, so that there's now a counterclockwise loop indicator, R1, and this is a counterclockwise balancing loop indicator, and you can resize that as appropriate. So now it's more obvious what the loops are, and you can also add pictures. In other words, you could make these custom images if you if there was a particular message that you wanted to portray as the function of the loop altogether, you could make it an image and then attach a label to it. So the whole idea behind the ability to add images to the individual primitives is to make the diagram itself more attractive and easier to understand by other people when they look at it, because you get an immediate sense of a bathtub as opposed to simply thinking about water level, and a better sense of gap by looking at a gap and an interest rate. And you can do this with the rest of the elements, and I would advise that you go ahead and access this model and make a clone of it and add images to the rest of the elements. Now, there's the risk here is that the images are simply references to graphics that exist someplace on the web. And stuff on the web is constantly changing. So you could come back to this model tomorrow and find out that these are just blanks because somebody changed or deleted the images or something. So there's that risk associated with putting images in a model directly from the web. And in the next video, I'll talk about a way to use an online web-based repository for images so that you can avoid ever having images broken in the future. It's the one I use on an ongoing basis, and it's free. So hope you found this informative, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.